Forgiveness. Maybe one of the hardest things, but also one of the most rewarding things that we can do in our most closest relationships. Yesterday I talked about how the importance of taking the initiative to forgive. If we realize that we are harboring unforgiveness or that we need to be forgiven, that we need to take the steps to go and be reconciled to our brother or sister in Christ. Here today I want to talk about how you and I just need to make the conscious effort to forgive the debt that either we owe someone or that someone owes us. Because when we live in unforgiveness, either we are taking payments or we're making payments. Unforgiveness is a debt just like any other debt that we carry financially. And either you are the one who is taking the payments. So you are the one who is holding on to unforgiveness, and you're holding on to your resentments, and you're keeping score, and you're making that person feel guilty, and slowly but surely you keep on taking payments from this other person. And it may give you short-term relief. You may feel good for a little while, but continual living in unforgiveness ultimately is going to harm you as you continue to take payments. Or maybe you're on the other side of that transaction and you're making payments. Now, there's two ways in which we can make payments. We can make small incremental payments, or we can just make one lump sum payment. When we come and we seek forgiveness from that person that we have harmed, what we're doing is we're making one lump sum payment. We're saying, here is everything that I owe you. I cannot pay everything back, but I want to settle this debt with you. I remember a number of years ago, I had a terrible headache that lasted several days. And of course, I started to worry that maybe I was having an aneurysm or something that was really seriously wrong with me. And so I decided to go to the hospital. I went to the emergency room, they checked me in, they asked me for insurance, and I said, I don't have insurance. And so I had an emergency room visit. I was there for a few hours. They ended up doing an MRI on my head. Luckily, they did find something in there, but nothing that was serious. And I was discharged. When I was discharged, they had me fill out some forms that they required because I did not have insurance. Several weeks later, I got a letter from the hospital, and I was expecting a huge bill that I was going to need to pay. And so my anxiety started to well up inside of me. I opened the envelope, and the letter explained that they had forgiven 100% of what I owed them for my visit. And I was reminded about God's forgiveness and how we're called to forgive one another. In Matthew chapter 18, verses 21 and 22, this is what happened. Peter came and said to him, that's Jesus, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Up to 7 times? Jesus said to him, I do not say up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. You may know this already, but 7 is that perfect number with God. And so Peter asked, do I forgive my brother 7 times? And Jesus says, no, forgive him 70 times 7. Now, that doesn't mean that we get to 490 times and the 491st time we don't forgive. What Jesus is saying, he's saying that every time someone sins against us, every time someone harms us, every time someone betrays us, there's a great debt that they're never going to be able to repay. And so he says, you take the step, you decide to just simply forgive 100% of the debt. Here's what I know will happen to you. When you decide to forgive, not when you feel like forgiving, but when you decide to forgive, because many times our feelings lie to us and we're never going to feel the time is right to forgive. But when you decide to forgive, you will start to live in freedom and joy that is inexpressible. So I want to encourage you today that if you're taking payments or if you're making payments, take the bold step today to have the debt forgiven.